Well, dear brother, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I regard it as an enormous privilege to be the editor in office in ICLR's sesquicentennial year as we celebrate 150 years of unbroken service to the legal professions, to the judiciary, to the academy, and to the administration of justice for all the people of England and Wales. I find I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, men like Sir Frederick Pollock KC, that great jurist and academic who in 1895 became the first person to be editor of all the Law Report series and fulfilled that role for over 40 years. And women like Carol Ellis QC CBE, editor for 28 years, who sadly died earlier this year. And of course not forgetting my immediate predecessor Robert Williams, who's with us tonight, the only surviving former editor. Amazingly, I am only the 9th editor to have held office since 1895, despite the fact that 2 of my predecessors were in post for less than a year. What I and all my illustrious predecessors have in common is a commitment to producing law reports of the highest quality, not only to serve the needs of the current subscribers, important though they are, but those of all the generations to come. We are 150, not out. Those first reports, prepared in 1865, have stood the test of time, even if the law which they reported generally has not. And we trust that people in 150 years from now will be able to say the same of what we publish today. That the ICLR would acquire a reputation for clear, concise and accurate reports of enduring quality was no foregone conclusion. As I'm sure many will know, in the middle of the 19th century, law reporting was in disarray, to put it mildly. The Special Committee on the Law Reporting System, formed in 1848, noted the problems of over-reporting cases which announced no new legal doctrine, reporting cases without regard to the interests of the public or the profession, inaccuracies, delays, and expense. In truth, there was no system. Some cases were reported by different reporters so differently that it was not possible to be sure what the judge had actually said. Other important cases were missed entirely. And the result of that committee's work and of the campaigning of men like Nathaniel Lindley was the establishment of the Council of Law Reporting to establish quality, system and order where there had been none. I would like to think that Lindley, who like our principal speaker tonight went on to be Master of the Rolls and a Law Lord, would think that his visionary campaigning had been worthwhile, and that the council which he helped to found had remained true to his vision. It was he who advised that we should report only those cases which introduce a new principle or a new rule, or which materially modify an existing principle or rule, or which tend to settle a question upon which the law is doubtful, or which for any reason are peculiarly instructive. We still seek to apply those rules today, and we hope to be able to do so even more fully when we launch our online 4th volume of WLR next year, focusing particularly on those peculiarly instructive cases for which we have not had room in our print series. In the last 150 years, we've reported getting on for 80,000 cases in the law reports, the weekly law reports, or one of our specialist series, industrial cases reports, business law reports, and public and third sector law reports. Each case with a headnote which sets out as clearly, concisely, and accurately as we can the points of law for which the case is authority. So what better way to celebrate our history than with a special anniversary edition of the law reports, containing a foreword by the Lord Chief Justice and 15 of the most significant cases which we have published in our 150 years, together with some essays on the subject of law reporting. You will have a copy to take home at the end of the evening, And on your chair, on the back of the programme, you have a list of the 15 cases which are in this volume. I want to record my thanks to my colleague Paul McGrath, who oversaw the process of putting the volume together, commissioning the content, indeed he wrote some of it, and also overseeing the process of selecting the cases. But just how do you select 15 cases from 80,000? It was a daunting and invidious task. So we asked our readers, our subscribers, to decide on the 15 cases which they judged had made the greatest contribution to the law in the last 150 years. And so we divided our 150 years into 5 periods, and they're also listed on that bit of paper you have. And for each period, shortlisted 10 cases for readers to vote on. But readers could, and did, nominate extra cases if they thought that they merited inclusion instead. And we publicised those extra cases on the blog as each voting period progressed. The selection of the final 15 was thus the product of a democratic process. And as democracy often does, it has thrown up a few surprises. One can see good reasons for the selection of all 15 cases, but the surprises are in some of the omissions. No Hedley, Byrne and Heller, for example. But I cannot conceal my delight that one of the cases which did make the final cut is Liversidge and Anderson, which Lord Thomas highlights in his foreword. A civil liberties case decided at the height of the Second World War. It's not the decision which is remarkable. Indeed, it's now widely regarded as wrongly decided, or at least confined to its own very special facts. But the extraordinary dissenting judgment of Lord Atkin is its true distinguishing feature. When I was a student, I photocopied that judgment and stuck it on the wall of my room. With enormous courage, he stood up to the executive and for the rule of law in the midst of a national emergency where many were willing to sacrifice principle for expediency and individual rights for national security. Atkin was in the finest tradition of our judiciary, independent, courageous and self-sacrificing, willing to take an unpopular stand against the government and indeed against the majority of his fellow law lords, whom he described as more executive-minded than the executive, because he believed that the law demanded it. Liversidge is an example of a law report, the enduring value of which is not the point of law which the case decided, but the example that it gives to the judiciary for all time of what a great judge does when the chips are down. As I said, a copy of this commemorative volume is available for you to take home at the end of the evening, and I hope you'll enjoy perusing at your leisure these highlights of 150 years of law reporting endeavour. Finally, I should just mention our recently retired desk editor, Margaret Froome, who I believe is the only person here tonight who was present 50 years ago when ICLR celebrated its centenary. Thank you all for your support as we celebrate the achievements of 150 years and look forward to the next 150.